afternoon, everybody. My name is Paula Cross and I'm the Sales and Business Development Executive for Frosch Ireland. And we want to thank you all for joining us today for our Lunch Break Escapes webinar. This webinar series takes place fortnightly over the coming months, and each one will be hosted by one of our trusted trade partners, where we will explore everything from river cruising, escorted tours, ocean cruising, once-in-a-lifetime adventures, beautiful destinations, and lots more. At the end of each webinar, we will have a Q&A session. So should you have any questions, please type them into the chat box. And if you're unable to answer them live at the end of the session, we will follow up or reply if we run out of time. These webinars will also be recorded and distributed to you. So without further delay, I would like to introduce you to Alan Sparling, the founder and managing director of ASM Ireland, a highly respected travel trade sales representation company in Dublin, who represents various destinations, including Iceland and Norway here in Ireland. Over to you, Alan.
Thank you for that lovely introduction, Paula. I'm delighted to be here this afternoon, and we're going to talk firstly about Iceland as a destination, a very, very popular destination from Ireland, and then we will move on to Norway. So we'll get straight into it. A couple of random fun facts about Iceland first. You can see the map of Iceland here, and you can see Reykjavik down in the southwest, with Keflavik Airport just beside it, and indeed you can see the Blue Lagoon there too. The land mass is about 103. I promise this is not going to be a geography class, by the way. It's about 103 square kilometres. It's about 20% bigger in land mass than Ireland, yet it only has a population of just short of 400,000 people, of which, by the way, 300,000 live in Reykjavik. So it's a very sparsely populated country. Settled in 874 AD. It has the world's, I told you these were random, it has the world's largest puffin colony, over 100 volcanoes, and it is something that we found in 2010 when we had the big volcano, and there's been a few smaller ones recently, and we'll talk about that because the Icelandic people manage these exceptionally well. It has its own breed of horse. If you've been to Iceland, you know not to call it a pony. If you haven't been to Iceland and you see these gorgeous horses, do not call them ponies. The Icelandics get quite annoyed about that. And it's a strange old horse because it's got 5 gates, and it's a really difficult horse to ride. And once a horse leaves Iceland, believe it or not, it's never allowed back into the country. Told you they were random. It was ruled by Denmark until 1944. Winter days have between 4 and 5 hours of daylight, while during the summer you have almost 24 hours daylight. It's closer to 21. Neil Armstrong trained for his moon landing in Iceland. Bet you didn't know that. And I remember the first time I landed in Keflavik Airport, I couldn't get over how much like the moon it looked as we drove to Reykjavik. And here's a really interesting fact. The DNA makeup of Icelandic people is 70% Norse, which is primarily Norway, and 30% Gaelic, which is Scottish and Irish. And you will find when you go to Iceland a very close connection with the people of Iceland. And I can only assume it's because of that DNA makeup that we have. You don't want to know why there's so much Irish or Gaelic DNA up there. It's when the Vikings took a lot of people to Iceland many years ago. So when do you travel to Iceland? Primarily the Irish and English travel to Iceland during the winter months, and that's because the Northern Lights is something that is really of appeal to us. Most Europeans, Southern Europeans, travel during the summer months. But the question really is, what is it that you want to do? So if you want to drive around Iceland and explore, then certainly it should be the summertime. Whereas if it's the Northern Lights and winter activities that you want to do, then absolutely it is during the winter time. And this image here just shows you of this Skogafoss waterfall, and the difference between, you know, the waterfall in summertime and in wintertime. Weather-wise, daylight hour-wise, I should say, you can see already here that in January and December, you have 5 and 4 respective daylight hours, whereas in February and November, it's 8.5 and 6.5. So if you were going to Iceland for a winter break, I must admit, I'd be saying, avoid January and December. Although you may have a better chance of seeing the Northern Lights because it's darker, you don't have that much then to do during the daytime. And I'll explain how a weekend break works, or a 3 or 4 night break works in Iceland, because you are based in Reykjavik and you're going out doing various excursions. So you do need that bit of sunshine, or daylight, I should say, as well. It's also quite chilly in Iceland, even during the summertime. Although it does not show a minus figure here for the average temperature in Celsius, the winds in Iceland can make it extremely cold, and you need to wrap up accordingly and be prepared for inclement and cold weather. But you can see there that July and August is 11 degrees. I mean, I've seen it at 20 degrees, 25 degrees tops. So just be aware of that when it comes to clothing for Iceland. So as I said, when most people travel to Iceland, they base themselves in Reykjavik, and typically we see people going for a 3 or 5 night break. The flights from Dublin, and there used to be flights from Cork, there's only flights from Dublin now, and the flights get in around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and unfortunately they leave around 7:30 in the morning, so you're kind of just having to stay in Reykjavik the last night to fly home the next day. So, if you were to take a 3 night trip, you're arriving in at 2 o'clock. So we just say you've got your Friday, then you have all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and then you're home on Monday morning. And let me just explain what you could do in that short space of time. Of course, one of the most known experiences in Iceland is the Blue Lagoon. The Blue Lagoon is here up in the top left-hand corner and down the bottom right-hand corner. And it's a must-do. It's as simple as that. It is a must-do. We would recommend, for example, that you're landing on the Friday, that you go straight to the Blue Lagoon. You may have seen how close it is to Keflavik Airport. There are other lagoons too, I must say. Up in the top right-hand corner, you have the Sky Lagoon, and in the bottom left-hand corner, you have the Hamsvik Hot Springs, which are absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it's a bit of a drive out of Iceland, or out of Reykjavik, but they are stunning, and especially in the wintertime, when you're there on the beach in these hot springs and the snow is falling down on top of you. It was an amazing experience. The Sky Lagoon is very different. It's a ritual experience where you go into the warm waters through a cave, and then you are into a plunge pool, and then you're into a sauna, and then you get a body scrub, and it's a beautiful experience, and it's one that can be done as well as the Blue Lagoon. But there's no doubt the Blue Lagoon is a bucket list for Iceland. Of course, if you're going during the winter time, the other bucket list tour that you simply have to do are the Northern Lights tours. They're not guaranteed now, although I can't remember the word, I wrote it down here. Yeah, the geomagnetic storm was at its peak in 2024 and 2025, meaning the Northern Lights were really, really strong, and they are still, in that peak level. I certainly saw this year a phenomenal display of Northern Lights. Again, people say, when do you see the Northern Lights, or when can you best see them? They appear from October to April. I would suggest that if you were traveling in November or February, you have as good a chance as any of seeing them. And then you have the choice. You can do Northern Lights by cruise, you can do Northern Lights by mini coach, you can do more Northern Lights by super jeep, which is a brilliant experience. I mean, those super jeeps, the wheels alone would be up as far as my hips, and I'm 6'2". And they're phenomenal vehicles to go in. And the other one there you see in the bottom left-hand corner is to do the Northern Lights by coach. I have to say, we don't really recommend that. I've taken it by coach, and you end up on this coach in a coach park out in the countryside, 50 people getting off the coach and 5 other coaches coming along. It just doesn't have that same wow factor as it does on the Northern Lights cruise. We always recommend that you book the Northern Lights cruise for your day of arrival. So again, you arrived on the Friday, we suggest the Blue Lagoon, then you go to your hotel, and then you go out for something to eat, and that night, on the first night, you go and you search for the Northern Lights on this cruise out of Reykjavik. If they don't appear, You can go again the second night, and you can go again the third night if they don't appear at no additional cost. So always book your Northern Lights cruise for the first night, because then you have a better chance of seeing them if they don't come out. One of the other major excursions from Reykjavik, and you're based in Reykjavik all the time in your hotel, and you're going out and doing these various excursions. The Northern Lights one, the cruise ship leaves from downtown Reykjavik, but the Golden Circle is probably one of the more famous tours that you can do. It takes in the Inkfjord National Park, which is down there on the left-hand corner, and there you have the tectonic plates of Eurasia and America. So you're, in no man's land, walking between two continents. And you also have the geyser, although it's not geyser. Geyser is the name, the Icelandic name given to the very first geyser, as we now call them. And that's where it comes from, the ones in New Zealand and America. This particular one is called Stroker, and Stroker would spray water out of the earth every 5 to 15 minutes, guaranteed. And of course, then on the right-hand side, another part of the Golden Circle tour is the Gullfoss waterfall. We have a number of Golden Circle options. One is where you would take in the park, the geyser and the waterfall. We'd also include an excursion to an absolutely amazing, believe it or not, tomato farm in Iceland. It's indoor. Remember, Iceland is all hydroelectric with all the heat that they have there. They're 90% green. And it's a fantastic place to go just to have some lunch. We also do an add-on to the Golden Circle where you can go snowmobiling on a glacier. It is safe, it really is, but it's the journey from Gullfoss waterfall to the snowmobile station in a super Jeep that is absolutely stunning. I have a little video here, we'll just see if it works. Just to give an overview, not just of the snowmobile, but of the various activities that I've just mentioned. So we arrived on Friday, we did the Blue Lagoon, we did the Northern Lights cruise. The following day we got up early and went off and did the Golden Circle tour, which takes a good 8 or 9 hours. There's day 2 gone. Day 3, I would strongly recommend that we then do a South Coast tour. Now the South Coast tour is all about the waterfalls. It is a stunning drive along the south coast, but it takes up the whole day. So you are gone at 8 o'clock in the morning and you're not back until 8 o'clock in the evening. There's also a glacier hike, which I promise you is absolutely worth it. I mean, to see that blue that's in the glacier is it's just phenomenal. And when we went, myself, my wife and children, our children would have been, I don't know, 10, 11, 12, thereabouts. It was no problem. You're given crampons and you walk along. I promise you, it is not at all climbing up a hill or anything like that. It is quite manageable. I'd highly recommend that you do that as well. And if that's all you do in Iceland on a 3-night trip, you're done, because then you come home from that evening and you go home the next day. And yet there's so much more to Iceland. We showed on the video whale watching. We haven't even gone out whale watching yet, so you could go out whale watching the next day, to go and visit a lava tunnel the next day, to snorkel in Silfra. It's something I did back in 2024, and it's a magnificent snorkel that you do, again, between two tectonic plates, and where you're equipped with all the gear. The water is 2 degrees, and the water is so clear that you can see down for, I'm going to say hundreds of meters, but I'm sure it's only tens and tens of meters. I must admit, I got the fright of my life. I thought I was looking at the gates of hell, but nonetheless, I kept having to flip over my back and take my breath and go back and look again. What an experience, though. The Reykjavik food walk, which again is something you could do the next day, where you go around with a guide to 5 or 6 different restaurants and bars and sample real local delicacies. I'm afraid to say it also includes the fermented shark. It is a brilliant experience, though. That is something else you could do. Obviously, Frosch Ireland, they have access to one of OBO, which is the company that we represent in Ireland. They're what's known as a destination management company, and they know Iceland inside out. And here's something I'll say, by the way. The weather in Iceland can be extremely unpredictable, especially during the winter months. And I have seen this firsthand, where I've met people, and I was going off actually to do that snorkel, and I met this French couple, and they were saying, oh, our excursion was cancelled, and we've just been told we can get a refund when we go home. Now, you don't go to Iceland for a refund. Generally speaking, it's a bucket list, and you want to trust, that it's going to work out as best it can. Our girl up in Reykjavik, Ranvik, if she sees that the weather has turned and, for example, the Golden Circle is cancelled because there's 6 foot of snow on the road, she's calling you because she has your telephone number. She's going, listen, what I've done is swapped itineraries around, and tonight what you're going to be doing, or today what you're going to be doing, and tomorrow we'll do this. She always finds a solution, and we've had it on many occasions, and you come home happy because you don't come home for a refund. Anyhow, the excursions in the brochure, you can see we have lots of information about the Blue Lagoon, the Hamsvik hot springs, the Sky Lagoon, the Northern Lights excursions. And again, we recommend that you do it by cruise. The wildlife excursions, I had mentioned puffins earlier on. So there's a puffin watching tour, there's whale watching. You can do whale watching by rib. I'll never forget, I was on a rib boat doing the whale watching, looking the wrong way as a humpback whale breached behind us. There's horse riding excursions you can do once you get used to that gait. And there is so much more if you have more time. If you don't have the time, insofar as if you only have 3 nights or 4 nights, without a shadow of a doubt, you should be doing the Golden Circle, you should be doing the South Coast, you should be doing the whale watching, or the Northern Lights, and of course the Blue Lagoon. But there's so much to choose from. You can see the South Coast there, where it's 10 to 11 hours or 12 hours if it's a glacier hike. So, that kind of wraps up Iceland in a very fast way, but I hope it's at least given you a little flavor of what to do during the winter. During the summer, we recommend, if perhaps you've been to Iceland before and you're saying, I'd like to see more, because remember, when you go to Iceland and you're based in Reykjavik, you're pretty much down in the southwest coast there, going as far as a town called Vík, which you can see here. That's the end of the South Coast tour. If you have it in you to want to see more of Iceland, I would highly recommend the 9-day self-drive around the island. We provide the car, we provide the itinerary, we book the hotels, and give you all the places where you should be stopping. In the southeast, you have stunning viewing points in the East Fjords again. They have a forest there. There's a joke in Iceland: if you get lost in a forest in Iceland, how do you get found? And you just say stand up, because they don't have their trees aren't that big. North Iceland, Akureyri is the name of the airport up there. There are no flights from Dublin to Akureyri, which is a real shame because it is an absolutely incredible part of the island. And of course, then you've got the Western Snaefellsnes as well as the West Fjords, and that can all be included in an itinerary if you're into driving around the island. So what are you waiting for? I don't know. I think, in fact, I was going to say, I don't know if we'll stop for questions in Iceland, but I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll move on into Norway, and then I would love to answer any questions you have about Iceland. I know that was just an overview of Iceland more than anything else for those who perhaps have not been there before or wanted to understand something about it. Norway has never been closer from an Irish perspective. We now have 3 airlines flying from Dublin to Oslo, SAS, who've been flying there. I used to work for SAS. We opened up the route in 1999. Norwegian, a Norwegian carrier, obviously, and Aer Lingus only announced that they're starting Oslo, I believe, this summer. We then have a seasonal service during the winter time from Dublin to Tromsø with Aer Lingus, Tromsø up in the north. Again, brilliant for Northern Lights. And we have an airline I actually take care of in the Irish market. People say Widerøe, but we call it Widerøe. so Widerøe is a Norwegian airline that started off flying from Dublin to Bergen twice a week 3 years ago. We are now up to 6 flights a week between Dublin and Bergen. Not only for the Norwegians coming to Ireland, but for the huge interest we are seeing in Bergen as the gateway to the fjords. If you're talking about the Northern Lights for Norway, you're not going to see them in Bergen and Oslo. You really do have to go north up to Tromsø. I'll highlight that again in a moment. And just in case you're wondering who Widerøe are, they would be Norway's largest domestic airline. I mean, if you were to take the top of Norway, would that be Kirkenes, and flip it down, you would end up in Rome. I mean, it's a very, very long country, and because of all the mountains and fjords and so on, it's a difficult country to traverse by car. So there is a huge domestic airline network, and you can see there where Bergen is and the amount of flights that Widerøe have to, from, and within Norway. It's just to give you an idea of who they are. So we'll start off just to give a highlight of Oslo. Oslo is the capital of Norway, and it is absolutely perfect for a short city break or an extended vacation to include the Western Fjords. As a city break destination, I've been to Oslo many times. It's a lovely city, but you'd be done with it, after 2 or 3 nights, unless you were going out somewhere else to do an excursion. Having said that, it is fantastic. I mean, you can explore the Edvard Munch Museum. The Vigeland Sculpture Park is really a stunning park. The Opera House I adore. You can walk up on top of the Opera House. You can visit the Viking Ship Museum to see where our ancestors came from. The Theatre Cafe is one of the most famous cafes in Oslo. And if you're a foodie, Oslo has 13 Michelin star restaurants. I think 2 of them are 3-star. I'm pretty sure 2 of them are 3-star. So it's a wonderful city break destination. But I think you'd be missing out on a lot of what Norway really has to offer if you just chose Oslo. I would be recommending that, by all means do Oslo, but then take a train to Bergen and see the fjord part. It'd be like going to Dublin. And actually, that I often say that. I mean, Oslo would be like Dublin is the capital of Ireland. Oslo is of Norway. And then I would compare Bergen, for example, to Galway, just as an example, although even smaller than Galway. Tromsø, just to hit on Tromsø as well. Tromsø is the Arctic capital of Norway. It was in the 19th century known as the Paris of the North, but it is perfect for your winter city break and Northern Lights week break with Aer Lingus. The difference between, let's just say, going to Reykjavik or Iceland for a weekend to see the Northern Lights or Norway, well, there's 2. First of all, the Northern Lights in Tromsø are excellent. Like, they really are. I can't guarantee that they're going to come out any more or any less, but they're stunningly good. I'll never forget it. It was like curtains falling down in front of me of light. And they also do the husky dogs and the reindeer sleigh, which you don't necessarily get in the Reykjavik region of Iceland. Dog sledding under the Northern Lights is a lovely, lovely experience. And of course, the Sami culture. I mean, there are lovely evenings where you meet with Sami and they just talk about their life and the reindeer herding. And then you have some reindeer stew. You can do the whale watching. You can visit museums in Tromsø. And of course, you've got fjord cruises up in Tromsø as well. It is absolutely well worth going to Tromsø. There are many other options as well. It's a big city now, Tromsø, so it's all still about activity. So you're not sitting around Tromsø, you're going out and doing things all the time. I don't know if this little video is going to work or not. If you could, Amber, maybe just let me know if it lags, and then I can stop it and move on to something else.
Yeah.
So that video was giving a little insight into Bergen and also into the north of Norway. The Norwegian people are very, very much outdoor people. They all have their cabins in the mountains. They all go walking, hiking, skiing. It's very much being out with nature all the time. And it is the most, you don't have to get involved with the skiing and anything like that, but honestly, it is one of the most beautiful countries to visit. It's absolutely stunning. Bergen, without a shadow of a doubt, you're going to hear it in my voice already. It's my favorite city, and it is the gateway to the fjords. It is magnificently preserved city. It's compact. You can get around, walk around the city, no problem whatsoever. And there's so much to see and do. I mean, the funicular up to Mount Floyen. So Bergen is surrounded by 7 mountains, and the funicular up to Mount Floyen, just for the view. I have a couple of pictures I'll show you, and the restaurant up there is gorgeous. Briggen, which is the UNESCO World Heritage Site, a Hanseatic wooden houses. Bergen used to be a very important salt cod port, where all the salt cod came down from the north and then went off around the world. The fish market itself is even worth walking through. Like, it's huge. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's full of museums, and in fact, the Coda Museum does have some monk artwork as well. And the cuisine is gorgeous. People often say to me, yeah, but it's so expensive there. Dublin is expensive, but nonetheless, yeah, I mean, to go out for a meal is probably, I'm going to say, anywhere between 10 and 20% more expensive than we say Dublin. But the standard is just top notch, no matter what you have. I mean, the alcohol is expensive. There's no doubt about that. But you're not going to Bergen to drink, like, you might have a glass of wine or a beer or whatever it is. But the food, in my opinion, and the seafood is absolutely stunning. It really is. And we can recommend restaurants, no problem whatsoever. So that is Bergen. We had a video here. Sorry, that isn't Bergen. I've only started with Bergen. We have a video here, but I don't think it's going to work. So we give it a bash. And please, Amber, you didn't stop me the last time, so I'm presuming it was okay. But we'll give this a shot and see what happens.
Okay. Hi, I'm Nena. I'm from London, and I have 10,000 steps to explore Bergen. Let's go. We've heard about Bergen being quite rainy, and it's like a little bit sparkly. It's kind of nice. I absolutely adore art. I'm definitely an artist myself, but I'm very interested in the Norwegian artists over here. Excuse me?
Across there at Kode, you can see paintings by Norwegian artists.
Hey, thank you so much. Okay, I think I found it. She was saying Kode. Yeah, that sounds right. I mean, I know monk, of course. Oh yeah, I know Kittelsen. We're gonna go find some Norwegian artists. I could do this the whole day. I know this one. This is so beautiful to actually see it. But I'm really interested in the music scene as well, and I've heard Bergen has a very exciting music scene, and I'm looking for some kind of record store or something. Excuse me? Hi. And I'm looking for a music store or something like that.
Right down the street there you have Apollo. They sell nice beers and they sell nice records.
Oh wow,
You should try it.
records and beers together.
Yeah.
Oh, that's epic.
Nice
Thank
place.
you. Oh, thank you. You're so kind.
Bye-bye.
Bye. I listen to like all kind of music. It's quite broad range. So everything from like classical to psychedelic to metal to indie. But I'm quite particular about what I like. So that's really The guys at the record store at Apollon advised me to go to this really nice local restaurant. I'm a total... Oh, okay. Okay. I'm a total foodie, and I'm really excited to check out like the Bergen food scene. Oh, tusen tack. What's it called?
It's called taxetos.
Wow, that looks amazing. Thank you so much. So exciting. Oh, wow. So this is like a preserved fish, but it tastes fresh in some way. It's like sweet and salty all at the same time. It's really special because it's like cobble streets. It reminds me a lot of London and England in general. But then it has these wooden houses, and it's so special because that's what makes it so Norwegian. Okay, so I figured out something really cool. I can actually take a boat, and I really wanted to check out the other side. You know, I don't have too many steps left. Hi! Yeah, I'm really happy that I came to the other side because this is so pretty. Look at that. That's like a swimming pool on the sea. So I only have 50 steps left. So I'm going to use them wisely and take a swim there. Perfect. I've had an amazing day in Bergen. It's a really beautiful city. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much.
The chef who served that girl that salt cod, I actually met him when I was in Bergen last December, and he's a world famous chef and the most unassuming man you could ever wish to meet. And if you are in Bergen, you have to have that salt cod. It is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, all I have here now are, pictures of Bergen. It will blow you away. It's such a beautiful, compact, easy to get to city. You know, you're what do they say here? It's anchored in the ocean, nestled amidst mountains, and it's in the heart of the fjords. Of course, one of the tours you do when you're on one of the tours we highly recommend is one called Norway in a Nutshell, which I'm going to show you in a moment. Here's just a couple of more images of the beautiful restaurant scene in Bergen as well. It's absolutely gorgeous. This, I think I'm going to skip the next video. It was one which was just about the fjords. That's probably the one you want to see. Let's see how long it goes on for. I know it's very short. So that is an electric catamaran. It's the one that we use for that program Norway in a nutshell, where you take in the fjords of Norway and of course the famous Flam railway line. So yeah, don't forget, you can always fly into Bergen, spend 2 nights in Bergen, and then head up to Tromsø, using Vidar obviously into Bergen and onwards up. Or indeed, you could fly into Tromsø with Aer Lingus and then come down with Vidar from Tromsø to Bergen, spend a night or 2 in Bergen, and head across. It can be, when you look at Norway, it's so big. So where do I start? I would say, if you want to get a real flavour for Norway, go to Bergen for a weekend. You'll be back. Of that I have no doubt whatsoever. Speaking of offers, right now I know Frosch Ireland have a trip going to Bergen on the 4th of October, and you can see, I'm not going to go through the whole itinerary here, but it's pretty much covering everything that we've spoken about. You're beautiful. The Clarion Hotel Admiral is a lovely hotel. You've got a guided walking tour up to the funicular to the top of Mount Floyen, obviously seeing everything that's in Bergen. And then Tuesday, the 6th of October, it's that Flam railway that I'm talking about, and those fjords on that electric catamaran. That's a full day, as you can see, from 8:30 in the morning until 7:30 in the evening. And then another fjord cruise on the Wednesday, and before you fly home on the Thursday. The first time I went to Norway, I went and bought myself a white Helly Hansen jacket. and these are just pictures of, on the left, of me on the fjord, getting onto the Flam railway. Above that is Bergen. I mean, it is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. You will not be disappointed with Bergen. So that, from my perspective, wraps up what I wanted to talk about. I hope there may be some questions. I'm more than happy to answer them. And I'll just leave it at that for the moment, Amber.
Perfect. Thanks, Alan. Thanks so much. I mean, Iceland and Norway, they're really stunning destinations, and you've certainly given us all inspiration, I think, for our next adventure. As Alan has mentioned, we do have a 4-night tour going out on the 4th of October. There's limited availability, so if you are interested, or friends that would like to go along, we've included most of the highlights that we possibly could in the 4 nights to give you a taste of the beautiful destination. We do have a couple of quick questions. I'm just conscious of the time. So anyone that we don't answer now, we will follow up. And actually, we have one here from Jackie.
I had loads of questions, but Alan, thanks so much. You answered them all. Every time I thought of a question, you answered it about the food, everything. I loved that record and beer shop, like for nothing else. I know that sounds very basic, but I guess the question I was going to ask for Iceland and Norway, I guess, is twofold. First of all, now I know why they're so like the Irish in Iceland, because they are actually DNA, they have Irish in them. How do they feel about the tourism, Norway as well? I know they're heavily reliant on it, but how do they feel about tourists, I guess, coming in, invading their gorgeous the gorgeous country?
It's a very valid point, because I've spoken to both of the girls I know, Ranveig up in Iceland and Nana in Bergen, and yeah, over tourism is a problem everywhere at the moment, especially in very popular bucket list destinations. Bergen are taking control of it by trying to avoid having those massive cruise ships coming into their city. Because, when the cruise ship comes in and you have whatever amount of people queuing to get on the funicular, it can be messy. And there is no doubt that Bergen is extremely popular in June, July and August. So I always recommend to people, look, if you're going to Bergen, go in April, May or September, October. Yeah. It's shoulder season. And you might have seen the picture of the girl walking around Bergen. I mean, you're not going to Bergen for the sunshine. So you just wrap, and the same with Iceland, you wrap up accordingly. And Iceland, it's the same thing. There was a bit of an issue with over tourism, but they seem to be reining that in now.
Yeah, thanks.
Perfect. And one thing you touched on as well was, I think it's one thing, we do have strong relationships with the destination partners. I mean, we're well used to disruptive weather and a kind of bad weather here in Ireland at times, and it can just turn like that, and that can happen then obviously in Iceland as well and in Norway. But it's fixing it. It's that you can go along, you can enjoy your itinerary, and we're fixing it in the background for you to make sure that you haven't missed anything that you wanted to go and see. The other question I had, and then we can answer all the other ones then directly. You mentioned the fly drives then in Iceland. How safe is it to drive? What are the roads like in Iceland?
It's actually easy to drive in Iceland. They've got one big motorway around the island. Having said that, not during the winter. We actually will not sell. If somebody came to us and said we want to hire a car and travel off in October, November, we'd say, sorry, we're not doing it for you. Because the snow does come. And if you don't know the roads, and there's more, I mean, even for Icelandic people, they get stuck on roads up outside the country. So if you're doing fly drive, and it's a gorgeous thing to do, it's only in the summer months.
Yeah. No, perfect. We'd also like to thank everybody for joining us today, and we hope this session gave you a sense of what Iceland and Norway has to offer visitors. And if you'd like to sign up for our newsletter, the QR code is there on the screen now, or you can sign up from our website as well. We will be sending out a newsletter to everybody. If you haven't signed up already, do it now, and you will get a newsletter. We'll have some suggested itineraries, we'll have some special offers, and of course we'll be showcasing our Bergen trip in October as well, this Friday, and we'll also include a copy and a recording of this webinar as well, so you can share with family and friends. Our next webinar will take place on Wednesday, the 1st of July, at the same time, 12:30. We will be joined by Peter Ryan from ASM Cruises, which is a premium cruise line known for the smaller ships that can then get into some ports that other larger ones can't. So it does make it a more immersive experience, and we hope you can join us then. But for now, Alan, thank you so much again for joining us. It's been fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.